The 1420 Sports Podcast, Four Beer Sports Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm joined today by James Tubb, reporter for the Medicine Hat News. He's been there for about a year now, sports guy, and I even saw him taking pictures at a Beach Boys concert 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, at the Medicine Hat Stampede. James, thanks for coming on the show today. What's your first thoughts? You've been in the Hat for almost a year now. What's your thoughts on the community? I used to live there for 8-9 years. What's your thoughts in the community so far in the year you've been there?
Yeah, thanks, Brent. This is kind of like a first time caller, long time listener. It's been a great first year in the Hat here. This is a big city, but a small town feel. I'm from a small town in Ontario of 4,000.
Yeah.
This is like 60,000 people, and it feels like that. It feels like 4,000. It's been a lot of fun. People here love their sports, whether it's the Tigers or the Mavericks, whatever it is. It's made my job easy. I write it and people eat it up.
Yeah, that's one thing that I liked about Medicine Hat the most, is that even though it's 60,000 people, you seem to run into the same people all the time, different places you go and everything else. And it's got that small town feel, and you have a very good sense of community in that town compared to other places I lived. And yeah, I'm from a town of not even 4,000 when I originally grew up.
Wow.
So it's the same kind of deal. Before we get into the Mavericks, have you been to the Silver Buckle yet for their 555 steak sandwich?
I haven't been to the Silver Buckle yet. No. I've haven't ventured that yet. I've heard good things though.
Yeah, you got to get there. Go down and see Dave at the Buckle. He'll just tell him it's on Brent. And he'll get you one for free. The 555 steak sandwich. It's you can't beat that deal. Anyways, James, it's your first year covering the Mavericks and the WCBL, because you by the time you got into the Hat last year, they didn't play last year, but
right.
The season would have been done anyways. What were your expectations of the WCBL first going into the season?
Yeah, before I even knew about it or met any of the players, I didn't know what to expect, Brent. It was I was like, okay, this will be college guys. Frankly, I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, the play on the field. I was blown away at how how good everyone was, whether it was pitchers or hitters. And it was a lot of fun. And it was really cool to see just how much of a pro these guys are. And even like on the media side of it, talking, I don't think I had a bad interview all year. All of these guys, I don't think they get media training, but they sure seemed like it. But no, I was impressed just with the pace and the amount of skill everyone showed in the WCBL this year.
Yeah, it is crazy to me the amount of time that these kids, because they're kids. I'm 40. Oh, geez, I'm 48 now. God, I keep forgetting that. But I'm 48 years old now, and you see these kids that they're at the field. But like before I get there, I'm there usually about an hour and a half before the game when I'm umpiring a game, and you see them there, and the amount of time that they have to put on at the field, with whether it be actually they're usually the maintenance guys at the field as well, and then they're taking batting practice and they're there full time. Is there something that really surprised you with that? They still come out day in, day out, and play, and the travel and the schedule. We'll get into that in a second here. But is there something that surprised you about the kids, about how much time they put in? But yet, even as the season progresses, you'd think that, Jesus, man, this has got to be tough to get out there night after night.
Well, for me, it was like, if the way I did interviews with them is I would get there at 5:00 because they would get off the field, the Mavericks, to the other team could do batting practice. And I'm like, okay, I'm here 2 hours before the game. This is a long time. I got to wait.
Yeah.
They're here even sooner than that, right? And it's just to see them go through that, and just the way they could bounce back from losses, or maybe if they had a tough night at the plate. That was something that I know when I used to play ball, or even covering other sports, losses can linger. Whereas here, it was just kind of like, I guess it's the baseball mentality of, all right, tonight we're going to be a little grumpy. You're cleaning up garbage in the stands. You're going to throw it maybe a little harder in the garbage can.
Yeah.
And then the next day you're ready to ball again. And that was kind of something that impressed me with these college kids, that because I still call them kids too, Brent. They're
kids, yeah,
close to my age, and it's a little scary. Some of them were my age.
Yeah.
But just seeing how quickly they could get used to the schedule that they've never had in college, and kind of learn how to rebound with losses, kind of like a pro. Like, I know it don't want to be cliche, but they're learning kind of how to be pros.
100%. That was one thing I was going to ask you. Like the Mavericks owner, Greg Morrison, he played a little bit of pro ball and everything else. And the game day experience at Athletic Park, I know as an umpire, I like going to the games there. They usually get over 1,200 people most nights, and sometimes it's a lot more than that. I think there were 1,600 the last game I did there, so it adds to it. How much work do you know is behind the scenes that Morrison does, and the game day staff, to not only to get the players ready and to get the players going, that it helps out to, and not just recruitment wise, but once the players are there, like how much work does old Greg Morrison put in?
Well, it starts with the amount of times I've walked in and I've seen Greg throw BP. Like it's just you don't see that, right? What owner throws batting practice to their guys? And it starts there, or he's at first base working with. It was a couple of different guys this year, just showing them what he learned to make it to pro ball. And the Mavericks do. I don't know every organization. They like the front office staff was the hardest working I've seen in any organization I've covered in sports, and they like you said, they gave their kids that pro mentality to the point that guys were like, I don't know where else I'd want to play. Like I feel wanted here, and that was a big thing. Whether it was a pregame meal or making sure the guys ate on the road and stuff like that, felt good. The gym across the road they had free access to. Yeah. They didn't have to go across town or anything like that, and billet families. And I think the Mavericks, before a player even gets there, before he puts on that jersey, they're set up for success. And I think that was a big thing. Obviously, the Mavericks didn't go as far as they wanted to this year, but I think they did a good job of reestablishing that core that they lost over COVID. And I think that's going to help along a lot coming in the next couple of years, just how they were able to leave an impact on these kids this year.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable how things can, without anything going around there for 2 years, it can add up pretty quick. And like, well, there's 2 teams that didn't make it. There was reasons behind that, Melville and York.
Yeah,
I'm kind of glad they didn't. That's between me, you, and our listeners. But they weren't the most successful things going. The renovations at Athletic Park. It's fantastic. The seats are a little bit too close to where the umpire sits sometimes. But what was in general the fans thinking? The fans' thoughts that you heard with the renovations, not only to the seating area, but with the new souvenir booth, the expanded concessions and everything else. What were the fans' thoughts on that? Because I used to sit in the stands there a lot when I lived there if I wasn't doing the game, and it was always great. But now with the way the field is now, it's second to none. Well, Okotoks, I guess. But.
Yeah. Don't tell Greg that. But talking with Greg, like that was the big thing with these renovations, where these were all everything that was done was what fans wanted. So it was wanted immediately, and I think fans really like those in the action seats. They got to see their players that they cheer on all season. They got to see their facial expressions, and that's a big deal, right? You see these guys, you want to be able to put a face to the name, literally. So I think that helped a lot, whether the umpires liked it or not. Having 6 feet behind them or not, it made it easy for me taking photos. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but, there's definitely 7th inning umpires after a few Bud Lights that show up in those seats. But it's kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, I think they loved the canopy, a little bit more shade, and the souvenir booth was amazing. Everything I heard, that was one thing that really stood out to people from what I heard, was that it had that big league feel of I can walk in and see what's on display. It's not. I wasn't here, but I was told that it used to be just buckets of stuff
tucked away. You couldn't see what was going on. No, it's
now you walk in and you're like, I'm in Rogers Center back in Toronto, and I can kind of see what it looks like on a mannequin and what it's going to look like on me. And I know they had stickers on some of the walls of some of the pictures and of the players, and it goes back to that, Brent. It's the big league feel, and I think the Mavericks did a good job.
They absolutely nailed it. I think people really enjoyed it. I know, like when I first walked in there, my first game this year, I was like, what the heck? This is not like it looked a lot better. I mean, it wasn't a dump before, but now it's just a lot better. We'll get on the field. The Mavericks, they had she's a rough year when you go 18-38, and just lucky that they had a team that was worse than them in the East Division, the Weyburn Beavers, that they had to Weyburn was in rough, but they took a few from the Mavericks in around, I think it was mid-July there. 18-38. What do you think went wrong with the club?
What a question. I don't think anything went wrong per se, Brent. I guess I could say the bounces didn't go their way. And that's easy for me to say, but the way I saw it, like, this was a Mavericks team that was always going to make the playoffs from the start of the season, and it looked that way. And the fact that it took as long as it did was surprising. But I think they just had, and their head coach Tyler Jeske talked about this, it was maybe the lack of consistency, and they were a young team, and I think that was a big part of it. And so it would be times at the start of the season, the offense was amazing, it was clicking, and then it kind of went away around the same time Adrian Salazar got his pro contract. And not that he led the offense, but when you take the best, I'll say the best hitter out of your lineup, it like shortens it, right? So.
Well, you look at any major league team, like obviously I'm a Yankee guy, as you can see in the background here. You lose a guy like Giancarlo Stanton, and they can pitch around everybody else.
Yeah.
So when the Mavericks lose a guy like Salazar, and I only got to be on the field with him, I think 3 or 4 times before he went to play pro. But that guy was good. Like he changed the way the game was played a little bit, and like the confidence that he had was it aided the rest of his team.
I was talking with one of the staffers in Medicine Hat before the final game of the year, and we were just kind of going over the season, kind of like this. And I just said it's so cliche, but it's such a baseball thing. Salazar was a pro. The second he walked on the field, I'm like, that guy's going to pro ball. He just like the swagger he had. And I think so when the Mavericks lost that, it maybe knocked the offense down a peg, but the pitching got good then. And it was just they never clicked at the same time. And I think that's kind of what held the Mavericks back all year was just two sides of the ball not working together at the same time.
There was a few times, and as like the umpire crews, we used to we talk after the games. Like we obviously don't have a dog in the fight or a horse in the race. I don't care who wins. It's just, but you discuss things afterwards on the trip back to Medicine Hat or to Lethbridge. Sorry, you just knew that Hat was going to blow it somehow, some way, and you just didn't know when. You didn't know why. You didn't know how, but you just kind of always had a feeling as the season progressed, like something's going to go sideways. I remember there was a Friday night game. I think it was against Weyburn, where they had a guy on second. I think it was the bottom of the 8th. The game was rolling 2 hours. They put in a pinch runner at second base. He rounded third, missed third, fell down, went back to touch third, fell down again, tried to score, got thrown out. I was on home plate that game. He got thrown out by, easily 15 feet. Even though he fell down 3 times, he still almost made it. It was things like that you go, Jesus. And then in the top of the 11th inning, a double play ball to the first baseman should have been a inning double play. It went through Dion Reese's legs, like Patrick Waugh playing net, and that was it. It just they seem to have a season like that where it's night after night. You like something's not going to go right here, and you just knew it.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that night up, Brent. I tried to forget that night.
Yeah. I was thinking we were probably gonna get to the bar a little quicker with a 2-hour game, which doesn't happen very often. All of a sudden it was 3:10. Like, what the hell just happened here?
That game, I can tell you, it was Kellen Williamson didn't start that game. It was his last game before he went to go play D1. He went to leave early, but it was his last game, and he got into pinch run, and just I don't know what it was. He stepped over the base kind of and slipped, and I forget how he said it. He was just like, I just had to go home. And I was like, well, you didn't have to. And like, it was just kind of after the game, it was a mess. And I was just, it was quite the game to try to think of post-game questions.
Yeah.
I was so in a mess. Yeah. I kind of wish you would have called him safe at home so we didn't have to go through that.
But he was out by so much. I don't think he got to the batter's box. He was out by that much. Like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, he was. You're right. Yeah. No, it was one of those games that it was kind of, that's when the thoughts of, are the playoffs going to happen creeping in? But it was kind of after that, actually. I think it was a shock to the system that guys' leadership started stepping up. And that was kind of a common theme heading into the playoffs was the leaders stepped up and kind of said, like, all right, let's bear down here. We're making the playoffs. And
one guy that I really thought, and I only seen him pitch a couple times, but I seen him pitch more during the CCBC season. I can't remember his last name. I really should do. I don't do research. Who am I kidding? But first name Ethan, from Calgary, left-handed Ethan Bromley. Yeah, I did know that. I quite liked him on the field, and as the more I saw, I only seen him pitch 2 or 3 times as a Maverick, but he was always really. He seemed like a real go-getter, a team leader, a guy that was a raw guy. I did one of the playoff games, the Regina game in Medicine Hat. I was on home plate for that, and Ethan was a little bit chippy, I guess you could say. He was kind of chirping the other team a little bit, but all in good, it was all clean, good. It was good. Ethan Bromley, I thought, was the kind of leader as the season went on, because I think he's a little bit older. His baseball's career is basically complete now. Ethan Bromley's a good. I quite enjoyed talking to him throughout the season.
He summed Ethan up pretty good. He was a great guy to talk to all season long. And like you said, perfect leader. And he had multiple roles. He started the year as a starter. He actually started the home opener, and they won that game. And that was a big game for him. I know that. And throughout the year, he was a starter. He went to the bullpen when they needed it. We talked about leads got blown, so they put him as a veteran in the bullpen. And then in the playoffs, he pitched in, I believe it was 1 or 2 games. He pitched in the Moose Jaw series, the first game to win. And before that, his role was on the bench. And it was just to keep guys in the game, the young guys. This was a young roster. I don't know how many times It sounds cliche to keep bringing it up, but it was a young team, and he helped kind of keep them together. Him alongside Zach Stark, the catcher, and his brother Nathan, and the rest of the veterans. But
there was 1,000 Starks, eh? Every time you turn around, there's a Starks. I'm like, I'm kidding. There's 3 out of
yeah, no, it was kind of cool. It was the second game of the year, I think, up in Moose Jaw, and that they all got in the game together for the first time, and that was just the Starks up the middle, and that was awesome to see. But just to finish up on Bromley, yeah, he was a great guy to talk to all year, and ultimate guy, like best. He would organize. Actually, I haven't reported on this yet, but it's a good story. His parents, game 1 in Regina, ordered food for the guys.
Oh,
So we didn't have
okay, because Tyler was telling me before a game there that because the bus was going to be, if they would have ate, they would have blah blah blah, would have taken until midnight before you even get on the road. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So his parents organized for us to get pizza, and like it's just stuff like that like guys who care more about his teammates than wins. Not that he doesn't care about wins, but cares more about the team than anything else do. And he organized food for the first game after Moose Jaw, another win. And it's just I can't say enough good things about Ethan Bromley.
No, really good guy.
Yeah.
We talked about Salazar not that long ago, but he was once he left. Was there another guy on the Mavericks roster once he left that you go, man, this kid, he's good. He's got a chance to go somewhere. Because like a lot of these guys, like we just talked. Some of these guys, they played their last baseball games this week.
Yeah,
and that's it. They'll never play again. And I heard that a lot as the season progressed. Like there was a kid here in Lethbridge, he came up to bat and he says, "This is my last at bat ever, Brent." And you're like, "Geez, you don't think of that, right?" Because I've been umpiring forever, and I'll keep umpiring until they tell me to stay home. But a lot of these guys, this is it.
Yeah.
Is there a kid out there that in the hat that you're like, why is he in this league? Like, why? Like, what's going on here?
Well, I mean, when you break a stolen base record, I think it's hard to go anywhere else than Braden DeSonia. I mean, he just every time he got up, like I took photos alongside for the paper, and I think every game I have more photos of Braden than anyone else. Somehow he's just really photogenic. But I think some of that just comes with skill. And what he could do on the base paths and what he could do at the plate was unbelievable. And then to play center field, he played all season at Columbia College at shortstop, I believe, and then just came to center field in Medicine Hat, and I think was one of the best center fielders in the league. There wasn't a ball in center field that I was like, oh, he doesn't have that. And to the point that the Mavericks just go, oh, we got a guy, and he would go and catch it. And it was just, I won't be surprised if Braden DeSonia is not back next year. I'd love to see him in Mavericks red again. He's almost too good for this league, I think. And
last week when he had his first at bat in that Regina game, and like I said, I was on home plate, and he rolled up to home plate. He's a pretty quiet guy. He doesn't say a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, "Oh, look, it's the Ricky fucking Henderson of the WCBL." And he looked back and he smiled. Me and the catcher, we had a laugh and everything else. And but he basically, the catcher was like, "Yeah, when you get on, I'm screwed." Basically, it was quite fun to listen to it. And he got on in a walk, I think, or I can't remember how, but he stole 2 bases and it was uncontested. Like,
it was.
Unbelievable.
It was amazing how like that when he stole broke the record that game, he got on base, and I could hear Weyburn outfielders were like, "How many steals does he need?" Everyone knew. Like everybody in that stadium knew he was going to steal, and he still got to base.
Well, I have that one written down here. That was there a discussion before the game with him and Tyler saying, if you get on, go for it. Like like we're in the playoffs already. It's already taken care of. If you get thrown out, it doesn't matter. We're set where we are.
Yeah.
Is it or they had to win that game? I can't remember.
Yeah, I was saying they hadn't clinched yet. That was an important game for them. That was the game they clinched. It was
okay. That's
it was
the
for
Friday
someone
night
writing
game, not the Saturday. Yeah.
For somebody writing a story on it, it was perfect. It was a best night for it. But actually, it didn't even make it to Tyler. It was just between Braden and Michael Forgione, the assistant coach, who was the base running coach. He won the WMBL in 2014 with the Mavericks. He played there. But Forge said the two talked, and he's like, "You got the green light. Like, you're so close. Let's do it and let's get it done." And they got on base, and it was I actually wrote about it. It was a funny story. The space that he stole, once he got on first, pitcher Jack Suhai, another Medicine Hat kid, went and grabbed a base and started spray painting it white because they're like, "Well, Braden's going to steal third, so we need to replace the base."
Yeah,
and it was just that confidence in him, and 2 pitches later, he did it.
No, it's I haven't seen a kid in this league that fast in a long time. He was something. It was something special to watch. In general, I shouldn't say don't care. In general, fans don't care. Like if especially at this league, they most not some people think it's professional baseball, but others they're like, okay, they're hitting these kids are here for the summer. They have a good time. The game day, we come to the game to root for the home team, and once it's done, it's done. They go, okay, well, they won, they lost. Medicine Hat's a little bit different. Do you find that the fans of Medicine Hat, because you travel around the league like I do, and I think the fans of Medicine Hat actually care if their team wins compared to other cities where they just go to a game for sake of going to a game. What's your thoughts on that?
There is a mixed. I was talking about this with Jeski, and there is definitely those fans, and it's awesome that there's that fans that care that much and know that much, like know these guys, and like if they lose, it's try not to talk to fans after losses. That's the way I always did it. Was stay away.
That walk that we have to do underneath there to the umpire room. There's some nights you hear like, "What? Geez, this is the worst walk in baseball."
Yeah, no thanks. You guys need it. Yeah, you need a tunnel or something. But no, I think it's awesome. But there's still also those fans that are just there for, you know what? It's a Friday night. Let's go to Athletic Park and just let's slam some pints and watch some baseball. And I think any successful baseball team needs that. You need your diehard fans that are going to live and breathe with that team, and you need your casual fans and those that are just there for a good night. And I think the Mavericks had a good mix of that, and it showed some nights that like when Stampede was in town, obviously attendance went down a little bit because it's a cowboy town, but their diehards were still there. And then when there was nothing kind of going on in June and kids were just finishing up school, you could tell that there was more casual fans. Maybe I don't want to put that on any fans. Fans are fans, and we need them in this league.
I think that's one of the great things that, like, I love baseball. I've loved it since I was a kid. I think that's one of the things that I like about it the most is that you don't really have to watch it. Like when you're at a game, you can talk with someone next to you. You can kind of know who's playing, but it doesn't really matter who's up. And you hear the crack of the bat. You can turn your head and start paying attention. And I think that's what people actually like about baseball more so than hockey, where the action goes here and there. But if you go to a baseball game, you can just casually watch it, and then you have 9 innings to really get into it. And if it gets exciting in the 7th and 8th, 9th inning, then you can really get into it, and the crowd does get into it. Compared to hockey, you really got to watch. I think that's one thing that people like about baseball. And when I lived in the Hat, I used to just go to games. I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed was that people just like going to the park.
Yeah, and they did a good job this year. I don't know. Obviously, I can't tell what they did in 2019, but the stuff in between innings, like you'll get people dialed in for the games during the innings. You need stuff in between the pitches, and 100%. I think they did a good job of that. And it's something that I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know anything what they're going to do if they did that more. And I know Okotoks did a little bit of that at the All-Star game. I was lucky enough to be able to attend that.
Yeah, I was on first that night. That was awesome.
Yeah, I heard you talking. I didn't get to hear as many stories as you did, but I was surrounded by kids trying to get autographs to the point I couldn't move. I was standing beside the dugout trying to take photos, and I had kids around my legs. It was quite the experience, but it's it's between the innings, stuff like that. It just makes the game even better and makes the night even better.
The thing I like the most about that All-Star game is that everybody, like, they were still trying, and I had my job to do, but nobody was uber intense until they got to the 8th inning. And it was funny, like because every team had their coach took rotation coming to first base, and everybody took their turn coaching. And so I got to have a pretty good chat with all the guys around the league on a more personal level than a hard ass level, I guess. And so it was a lot of fun. We had some jokes, and I actually had when Tyler Jeski came down, the Mavericks manager, he came down about the 3rd or the 4th. I can't remember what it was. He shook my hand. He goes, "Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that call you made in the last pitch, the 11th." He goes, "That was inside." I said, "Well, it was high too." I said to him, and he laughed, and we had a chuckle about it and called her good. So it was a great event that they had in Okotoks there, the All-Star game. I hope that they don't just, because Okotoks kind of, I don't want to say runs the league, but they have there's a thing there. I hope that they've spread that All-Star game around, because I think Medicine Hat would do one hell of a job hosting something like that.
I can confidently say there's interest in Medicine Hat. Yeah. I think Medicine Hat would do a very good job at it. Obviously, they're maybe it's not as new as a park as Okotoks. It's freshly renovated though, and I think Medicine Hat has a lot to offer for that All-Star game, plain and simple.
100%. We're talking about the Mavericks a bunch here. What's Greg Morrison's, like, when, like, I don't know, because I mean to ask this to coaches and players, when the season's over, like tonight's the last game. This will air tomorrow, so when you guys hear this, there'll be WCBL champion. But what is the end of the season like for these players and for Morrison? And what do they say to not only the players, but to Tyler Jeske and the coaching staff? Like, what kind of handshake agreements are there? What, like, how does it all go down? And what give us a little bit of insider knowledge that you may or may not have.
Oh boy. Okay. So yeah, what's today's? Yeah. So I just had a story come out today, Thursday. I talked to Greg, Tuesday.
I read that this morning. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, thanks. And just we talked about the season and kind of. So we got back from Moose Jaw Sunday night, or I guess Monday morning, after the loss in Game 3, and I think guys left Monday morning. There was a couple guys that left. Yeah, gone, and some were leaving later Monday. That's when I did a sit down with Tyler. Also, I've got a story on that already out, and I think right now it's too early for guys to even commit for next year because a lot of it's up to the schools. It's kind of amazing how much schools control these players. I'm not a big fan of it.
Pitch counts and everything else. It's odd to me.
But even position players, like the teams, like the colleges get to go, all right, these are the places we want you to play next summer. And I don't know if that's everybody, but that was what a couple players told me is it's up to their colleges. So I know Greg has said that he wants to bring back as many as he can. And like they had a good talented group that I would bring back as many as I could with that group as well. And so it'll be interesting to see. No coach decided decisions have been made on coaches. That's not really breaking news. That was again in my story, but I think it's just right now. It's kind of like thanks for this year. I know Greg said he gets to sleep in a couple days, and then he'll start already thinking about next year and looking to bring in bodies for next season.
Was it Hunter Cooper, right?
Yep.
Is he? I think he's probably aged out, isn't he?
I think
because he was around in 19, and that's a long time ago. All of a sudden, like it doesn't seem like it, but you go 2 years of COVID and however old he was, and now you're 2022. The turnover of these players, I don't think that the average fan actually realizes that these guys are when they're 20, 22, 23 years old. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Like it's a longer thing than junior hockey, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's crazy how a guy who's 22 is that. Well, that's it.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like, not to break the current, I'm 23, and that was something that, like, looking at covering guys my age and seeing how, like, oh, this is it for you. This is kind of tough. And now I know with COVID, guys get certain extensions with their universities and colleges, so they still have a couple more years. So, like, I think all of the guys that maybe aged out. What is it? Is it 20? Someone tried to tell me it's 25 for the WCBL.
I've been around this league so long. They used to like have people who were 30 and 40 years old in this league. It was like, it's like an old timers league almost. It's weird. But,
I do know. I don't think Hunter. I shouldn't say I know. I don't think Hunter Cooper will come back next season. I think he has, and he's good enough to play elsewhere. He's another guy like that. And nice I don't know about too. Man, great kid,
just smiling all the time.
He's from Anaheim and a big hockey fan.
Life's pretty easy for him, I think, in California. So he's a really good kid. We'll get off of the Mavericks here. One thing, and I had Brooks' coach on here, Jake, and we did some what's right and what's wrong with the WCBL. Name me a couple of things that if you were commissioner of WCBL for a day, name a couple of things that you would change. Like what's okay, first off, actually, what's right with the league that you like? Let's stay positive. What is right with the league?
Wooden bats. Wooden bats are the best part of this league, I think. As silly as that sounds, there is no better sound than a wooden bat.
It changed the game too.
Oh yeah, it's amazing, and like it equalizes it a bit, I think. What else is right about this league? That makes it sound like there's not. There is a lot of right.
There's a lot, but
I just think maybe I like the geography of where all the league teams are. I don't have to travel as much. I was lucky enough to go all the East Division teams this year. So that was easy for me. I just think the way I didn't mind the schedule either. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me, Brent, because I'm not a day-to-day. I'm more on the outside, so I don't know. There's a lot of things right. I don't want to just pull things, but for me, it was that bat, the sound of the bat. And that's the biggest right for me is that they'll get that right and keep it going.
Well, you get ground balls to stay in the infield because they're not going at 140 miles an hour off an aluminum bat
or safer,
composite bat or whatever it is. And there's more balls that stay in the ballpark, and it gives the pitcher a pitcher fighting chance. I find compared to to university baseball and NCAA baseball down in the States there. what do you think is wrong with the league?
What would I change? I'll say I
What
don't
would
want to
you
say what's
change?
wrong. Yeah. I'm not going to say the schedule. I would say the schedule. Yeah, other guests in your show have said the schedule, so I'm not going to go into that even further.
Yeah.
That to me is just the biggest thing that needs to be changed. And another thing would be maybe like something's got to be done to mainstream the live streams and make them a little bit more regulatory, I think. Just to like, because some teams would be like, it'd be 2 batters behind. And for me, who's watching it, trying to report on a game,
Yeah.
for family, you want to watch it as close to up to date as you can. And I know they just introduced that this year, so they got things to improve on, and that's good in them, I guess, for putting that in and get all the teams to do it. I know there's one team that doesn't do it, and I think that's a little
Yeah, they broadcast it on YouTube, and I watched
Yeah.
it. It's Moose Jaw. I mean,
Yeah.
why? That's who did it.
Yeah.
Why they did it, who knows? Well,
it's a little Mickey Mouse in my opinion, but that's whatever.
Yeah.
I would move the All-Star game up. I
Yeah.
just think, and that's part of the schedule, right? I would make schedules like for me, the season would have ended 2 weeks ago. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the schedule.
No, go ahead. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I would have ended the season like 2 weeks ago or like a week ago, like
Yeah.
the finals done, because as cool as it is to see which team has enough depth, I don't think it's like if you're a fan, you don't like you're getting guys in the end of the season. You're like, oh, I haven't seen this guy. Like I know that guy from May, but he's gone, and now there's this new guy, and it's just not a big. I don't know. It's not. I'm not a fan of it. But I mean, they got to make money, and I understand that you need the gates, and that's how some teams in this league
over the years, James, it seemed to me that the team that would win this league was the one that had the most players left.
Yeah,
I've seen this league get depleted to where there was 15 guys total, and you to end the season, and it's just too long because, like we said, these guys are just kids and they come right from college. Like I know we got our CCBC season done on the holiday Monday of the May long weekend, and we had the WCBL game on Friday.
yeah.
Like, it just doesn't stop, and I'm not getting any younger, so for me, it's a long year. And then these kids, they come right from their schools, they play, they kind of want to maybe have some summer at home for a couple of days too before they got to go back to college.
They should get some time off, like arm health and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Like I know guys left this week and they had practice Wednesday, and I'm like, well, that's not. The one other change I would make is every league has to install mosquito repellents around dugouts and stuff. I have never had this much issues with mosquitoes. It made games miserable and
horrible.
Like the amount of bottles I went through, and like in Moose Jaw, I had to do a quick run to Walmart to get some before game 3. And I'm like, this isn't fun. And
I had some nights in Brooks, man. It was awful. Like absolutely, like I gotta go. This guy's out because we're leaving. This is not that bad.
Not to sewer a town, but I know Weyburn catcher Andrew Savage couldn't see. He's like, I gotta call time because there's mosquitoes in my eyes. And I was like, we can't have this. Yeah,
it's terrible. No, it's a fun league. I think it's a great league that that people seem to enjoy. Like I said earlier before we went on the air, I'm going to Okotoks tonight to do game 3 of the finals, working third base between Moose Jaw and Okotoks. But when people hear this, it'll all be said and done. But we'll give me a prediction what's going to happen tonight in Okotoks and Moose Jaw. What do you think?
I knew that was coming. The one guy that got held off the offensive stats really in the Medicine Hat Moose Jaw series that I think is going to kind of explode here and didn't game 1 is Nate Mensick for Moose Jaw. And I think the kind of attitude that he has and the way he plays the game, I could see him maybe kind of going big league here for one game. And I'm going to say Moose Jaw wins tonight.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to say anything right now, but it's kind of.
I know. Yeah,
that was kind of my thought. Like I said, I thought even earlier in the season, I thought the Moose Jaw was they were a really talented team, and I don't. There was something that I didn't like about Okotoks. I couldn't put my finger on it. I still can't, but there's just something that they just don't have. I know they won a record amount of games here, but they have some different competition, and it's another thing we talk about the league. But I think who knows? I mean, the team that scores the most runs is going to win. That's all I can say. That's all I can say at this point. Tomorrow I'll do a little bit more of a follow up on it. 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 beer sports talk, and a whole lot more. Brought to you by SeatGeek and SeatGeek.com. Are you ready to play some pepper there, James?
Sounds good.
Okay, here we go. Favorite team growing up?
Toronto Blue Jays.
Still the same?
Yep.
Ontario people.
I'm a good Ontario boy.
There you go. Favorite baseball player growing up?
Edwin Encarnacion.
I didn't mind him actually. Now that you mentioned, like there was a while there, I thought that walking the parrot thing was a bit of a nozzle move, but it's kind of it grew on me a little bit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
man, those Jays teams, that was one thing. I don't know if you heard me talk about it before, but those Jays teams when they were winning and going far in the playoffs, everything else in 2015 and 16, I believe, they really bring more baseball fans. Like I'm a baseball guy, I watch hockey, but I'm more of a baseball guy. The way that those teams brought baseball fans out of the woodworks was great for me because even though I like the Yankees and people hate the Yankees for whatever reason, it really brought more people into baseball. More people were talking about it.
Oh yeah, like I'm gonna make you feel old, Brent. In 2015, I was in grade 9, and I was on a high school trip for Game 5 when it all went down in the ALDS. And there was people on that bus I know don't give a damn about baseball. They were tuned in, and we listened to it on the radio, and it mattered to them. And it was amazing just to see how like Blue Jays spirit through my small town and everywhere. And maybe 2 years later it was gone because the Blue Jays were having some tough bounces. But it's amazing what playoff baseball does for a team.
Team other than the Yankees that you can't stand?
I don't mind the Yankees actually.
That's a great answer.
You got to game respects game. That's what it is for me. I hate the Red Sox.
I like you more and more the longer we talk here. Buck Foston, baseball moment you've seen live. Your favorite baseball moment you may have seen live. Whatever league, doesn't much matter.
I got to see Rowdy Tellez's first home run, and that's kind of something. Yeah, I can't think. Braden DeSonia breaking the WCBL record. I don't know why I didn't go with that. That's probably
that's cool.
I said to the guy on the bench, like, that's the coolest thing I've ever covered in sports so far. And we'll go with that one.
There you go. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
That's its own thing. It's its own breed.
Hot dog sandwich.
Nah, it's its own.
I get me and Deanne, we argue about that all the time. She doesn't think it is. It's bread. It's cut the same way, like a Subway sandwich. Yeah, the bread's the same. And it's got meat filled with condiments. I think it's
its own perfect entity.
It's its own entity. Have you ever caught a foul ball or a home run at a game as a fan?
Oh boy, I got a great story for this. It wasn't a foul ball, but I was in Detroit, and it was Vlad Jr.'s rookie season in Toronto. Yeah. And I was up third base, and he threw it to a kid behind me. Kid can't catch, sucks for him. I leaned back and caught it, and I said to my dad, I'm like, well, I'll fight somebody, but this is coming home with me. Yeah. And it's sitting on my dresser in Mitchell, Ontario.
I got the same kind of story. I was in New York, sitting in section 103 in right field, and my main man, Carlos Beltran, little did I know he's going to be a cheating prick with the Astros later on, but whatever. He threw one up in the stands, and I reached up and I grabbed it. And of course, there was a kid sitting next to it. I was like, son of a bitch. And so all the people were, give it to the kid. So like the mom took a picture. I gave the kid the ball. And then as I went to get something, I came back down to my seat, and she was leaving the stadium. She goes, here's your ball back. This means a lot more to you than it does to the kids. So I got the ball back, and I'm actually taking it to New York with me this weekend to hopefully get it signed because Paul O'Neill Day on Sunday. A couple more here. One rule you would change in the game of baseball if you're a commissioner for a day.
I kind of don't like the 3-batter rule for pit relief pitchers. Yeah, there was something special to me about the one lefty on lefty. Like, this is my lefty, he's going to go against your lefty, and then we'll put a righty in after him. I loved that. Yeah, there was a guy you wouldn't remember because he pitched forever, but Jesse Orozco, he made a career out of being a left-handed guy who would come out of the bullpen, face one guy, and sit down, throw 6 pitches. Yeah. No, I'll go sit down again. I don't care. No, I quite agree with that. The one thing I would like to see change to, and people talk about the length of the game, and I mean it's the length, but one thing I would like to see change is the amount of pitches when a guy comes out of the bullpen. He's already been thrown down there for 20 minutes. Yeah. He doesn't need 8 pitches when he comes to the mound. Throw 3. Let's get this thing going a little bit. That's an umpire if I've ever heard one. Yeah, let's go. We got to get going here. Yeah. No, it's crazy. This crazy game that we all. Well, it's for commercials, right? It's 100%. Yeah, it's 100%. No, thanks for coming on the show talking about baseball here. Let's move on a little bit to hockey. A legend. I've heard him announce games since when I was a kid. Heard him when I lived in Medicine Hat. He was on the radio.
He's a legend around that town, around the Western Hockey League and around the CHL. Bob Ridley, 4,000 plus games, the whole bit. Drove the bus. We all know the story. You've probably had not a whole bunch of interaction since you've been here. But what do you know about Rids and his send off and retirement and everything else? What do you know about the man, the myth, the legend, Bob Ridley?
I'll tell you, Brent. That Tuesday, it was a surprise to me. I saw it on Twitter. His son tweeted it out, and I was like, "Whoa, that's news!" And it was big news. And I was lucky enough. I've been lucky enough to talk to Rids a bunch of times here and meet him in the hallways. Obviously, last year he only called one game because he was away with cancer treatments, and he finishes his career at 4,022 games. And I don't think that'll ever be touched. Obviously, in the WHL, I doubt in the NHL. I don't know where some guys are at, but I think it's it's crazy, and he's getting to go out on his own terms. Rids is in good health from everything he told me, and he just said it was time. And it's as simple as that. I think a guy that does something like that for 52 years and he's 78 years old, he gets to decide when he wants to retire.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah. So he'll be there. That's the best part is he'll still be at every home game, probably drinking coffee with the coaches before the games. But I think he just gets to kind of enjoy the rest of the day now, and he doesn't have to ride on the bus too. I know the Tigers, geez, I got to get that figured out before the season starts. Before the Tigers are heading to the States this summer, or the winter, so he doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's got to start wearing a guy. I mean, geez, I remember when I played junior hockey many years ago. The bus trips can get a little bit tough, and especially when he didn't drive it for a while now, obviously, but man, those road trips got to start wearing on a guy and everything else, and you can't. And when I know, like during COVID, they were calling games remotely. And you don't get the same feel when they're doing it that way compared to having a guy in the building.
I think he was actually in the building. But he wasn't allowed to ride the team bus. He had to drive himself. I'm pretty sure in 2020 he drove himself to the games. Don't quote me on that.
Well, I believe
that's what I'd seen us report on before, is that he would drive. It was the first time he had to drive himself to games in 10 years or something since he stepped off the bus.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I can't say enough good things about Bob Ridley. He's a great guy and a great broadcaster from what I've got to hear. And I feel bad for whoever tries to step into his shoes next year.
That's a tough one because Deanne, when she worked at Chat News there, she would run into Ridley in the hallways there, and she said he was just the nicest guy all the time. Would do anything that you asked and try to help out. And he was very supportive of anybody getting into the business. And it was great to it was great to be able to hear him call games, and the amount of love that he gets in that city. It's second to none. The people just they love their Rids. There's no getting around that. I mean, Ralph's has a hamburger named after him, for Christ's sake. So it's the Ridley burgers. No, it's quite a good send off. I'm sure they'll have a big ceremony or something again for when, because he did retire this year. It's a good thing. So Tiger season's coming up. We'll have you on again in September once the Tiger season. Hopefully they have a better season than they did last year. It was a bit of a rough one. But we'll have you on again. We'll do a preseason talk. We'll get the guy from Lethbridge here, Dustin Forbes, and Nathan Ryder out. Maybe we'll have a round table. We'll sit around, get four of us on here and talk some Western Hockey League hockey.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So all in all, you must really enjoy the Maverick season. I saw you out. At first you weren't on the field, then a few times like, why is he standing on the field? I didn't mind, whatever. You started kind of worming your way through. Okay, I'm a little closer. Then by the end of it, I just leave him up there. He's not hurt.
Well, I was waiting for that, Brent, all season. I started the first game. I stood on the visitor side dugout. And I was like, I'll just hide here. And then I was just like, oh, this is my field too, And I just started to stand where I stood. And I know the players weren't allowed to be outside of the dugout. And sometimes the players would be like, well, look where he's standing. And I would just be standing there. I'm like, wow, if I get hit, the umpire's not in charge of me. Yeah. So, it was, I loved it. And it's got to the point early in the season, I went on the road to Swift Current for a game. I went to Weyburn for a 2-game trip. And then obviously went on the road with the playoffs. And I don't know how guys do it. Like me sitting on a bus, I was in pain. And then I had to watch the game. That must be hard. They had to play it.
Yeah.
I don't know how guys do it. And my hat's off to them. But no, it was a great season. I got paid to watch baseball almost every day, Brent. It's kind of hard to complain about that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I get paid to do it. People yell at me though, so whatever. It's a different little situation. No, it's great. No, I'm glad you're out there because in the past there hasn't been the greatest reporting of this league, but you did a great job night in, night out, and promoting this league a lot. You're on Twitter all the time. What's your Twitter handle? Get it out to the people out there.
My Twitter handle, it's Reporter Tubb, Tubb, two B's, and then on Instagram's Reporter James. Pretty basic.
That's one thing I got to get more of that because kids seem to be using the Instagram. I don't know. It's just too many buttons and things. Whatever.
I don't mind. I post photos after every Rep Mavericks game. Get a couple photos after every game. So yeah.
Yeah, I need a social media manager. Oh, that's right. This doesn't pay very well. So, anyways, no, James, thank you very much for being on the show today. Like I said, it'll just be out tomorrow. We'll get it out there, get it out to masses. But yeah, thank you very much. Like I said, for covering the league, you did a great job all season long with the Mavericks and the league in general. And we really appreciate it. We talk about you in the umpires room all the time, and hopefully people, because you don't even have to buy a newspaper anymore. His articles are all on Twitter. Make sure you read them. James does a very good job with what's going on. So we really appreciate all the work you did this year for the WCBL.
Thank you, Brent. And please buy a newspaper, though. I know it's online, but
that's right.
Maybe buy 10 newspapers and a subscription.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt, actually. We actually subscribe to Lethbridge Herald here in town. And so we get it every morning. And so I do read it. So it's a thing. And actually, like when I lived in the Hat, I would buy a paper. I did subscribe, but I always like if I went for breakfast, I'd always grab the paper and read it. Like why not? Yeah. It's quick and easy, and it's buy papers. It is a dying breed out there. There are pretty few and far between. Newspapers are they're dying the way of the dodo a little bit. But so get out there and support your local newspapers for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, Brent, and thanks for having me here today.
No, it was fun. It went pretty seamless. We talked some baseball. We'll have you on again, like I said, in the spring. The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 beer sports talk and a whole lot more, brought to you by SeatGeek and SeatGeek.com. Use promo code 1420pod. I think I got that right. At SeatGeek.com today for all your tickets, and you save yourself $20. Have a good day, folks. We'll talk to you guys again on probably on Saturday.